There comes a moment when everything you once believed begins to dissolve. You think you're losing control, but in truth, your soul is calling you home. This journey doesn't take you somewhere new. It brings you back to where you've always been, yourself. This is not a story about religion or miracles. It's a story about remembrance, awareness, and the light waiting quietly within you. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. The journey back to the divine power within asterisk. Human beings spend most of their lives searching for something they believe has been lost. They chase after recognition, love, success, and even salvation. They believe they must become worthy to be loved, perfect to be blessed. They pray, plead, offer, and correct themselves, hoping that one day God will smile and open the gates of grace. Yet the harder they try, the farther he seems to be. They believe God is somewhere high above, and they are far below. They believe they must do something to bridge that distance, without realizing it has never existed. The separation between man and God is only an illusion born from an unawakened mind. When one believes that God exists outside, they live in fear of losing him. But when they realize he lives within their very breath, fear dissolves, for that love has never left. The sense of separation is the root of all suffering. It makes humanity beg instead of recognize, plead instead of create, bow instead of remembering they were born of light. From the beginning, God never granted life only to take it back, never breathed into man only to watch him beg for each breath. God is the breath, the heartbeat, the living current flowing through every cell. When you seek God, what you are looking for is not out there, but within you, in the life happening right now. What religion calls grace, philosophy calls being, and science calls energy are but different names for the same truth. It is the living, intelligent current breathing through you. People spend their lives searching for miracles, but the miracle has never been far away. It is the awareness that you already carry within you the creative energy of the universe. When a seed sprouts, it does not happen because heaven blesses it, but because of the natural law of life within it. Humanity is the same. Within each person lies a divine seed, waiting to be recognized so it can awaken. True prayer is not asking God to change the world, but allowing yourself to change the way you see it. When consciousness shifts, reality follows. Every thought, every emotion is a form of energy. Your subconscious receives them and reflects them back into your experience. If you believe you are small, life will treat you as small. If you believe you are a child of light, the universe will begin to rearrange itself to match that belief. Prayer is not sending a request to a distant place. It is sending a signal to your subconscious mind, which is directly connected to the infinite source. The kingdom of heaven is not in the clouds, it is within the deeper layers of awareness, where you stop searching because you realize you were never lost. When a person awakens, they do not find God, they recognize that he was always there. The spiritual journey, in truth, is not about finding something new, but about removing each false belief that hides what has always been. We have been taught that we must prove ourselves worthy, but the truth is that we have always been worthy. The love of God does not come after you change, it is the reason you can change. No one needs to reach God, for no one has ever been apart from him. The moment you stop trying to become, you begin to fully exist. In that stillness, you no longer seek miracles, you become one. God is not a being sitting above the world bestowing favors. He is the rhythm of life smiling within you. When you feel lonely, it is because you have forgotten that the life within you is the life of all creation. When you feel weak, it is because you have not yet remembered that the same energy that moves the stars flows through your veins. Pause, take a deep breath, and realize that every breath you take is proof of divine love at work. There is nothing you must prove, nothing you must attain. Everything you need has been given since the beginning. You only need to remember that power has never left you, only turns silent behind your doubt and fear. When you believe, that energy rises again, quiet yet unstoppable, gentle yet immense. It is the creative power of God in human form. Every limit you ever believed in dissolves the moment you see this truth. You are not a fragile being seeking God. You are God experiencing life through human form. And when you know this in your heart, every prayer becomes a word of gratitude. Asterisk, asterisk, the moment when a human touches the divine power within. Asterisk, asterisk, there comes a moment in life when all knowledge, all effort, and all prayers seem to dissolve. There is nothing left to hold on to, no reason left to strive. It is the moment a person reaches the deepest point of surrender, and in that place where despair seems complete, the divine begins to speak. I once witnessed such a moment on a cold night, when all seemed lost. A young man knelt beside his mother's bed, his trembling hand resting upon the worn pages of a prayer book. He no longer asked for a miracle. He simply cried, not from loss, but from the helpless awe before a power he could not comprehend. In that silence, what he had sought his entire life awakened from within him. A presence surrounded him, not a sound, not a vision, but a knowing. That God had never been distant, never silent, never absent. That love was not something to be found outside, but the pulse of life breathing through him. When the human mind reaches its limit, the heart opens to truth. And the truth is so simple that we often overlook it. God is not a distant deity. He is this very life. He is the consciousness, seeing through your eyes, breathing through your chest, loving through every genuine act you offer. You do not need to call him forth, for he has never gone anywhere. You only need to be silent long enough to hear him within. We have grown accustomed to praying out of fear, believing that if we beg long enough, God might take pity and respond. But he does not listen with ears, he responds through resonance. When your heart aligns with love, he is immediately present. When your heart is clouded with doubt, he is still there, though unseen. True prayer is not a request, but a union. Not words to persuade, but silence to remember. Have you ever wondered how many times you have prayed from fear rather than from faith? How many times you knelt for peace while peace was quietly waiting for you to open your heart? How many times you asked for light, forgetting that you yourself are the lamp? If you are hearing these words now, it is not by chance. Perhaps you are standing at that same moment when your soul longs to remember, to return to its original power. You do not have to lose everything to awaken. Awakening can happen in a single breath if you are truly present. Ask yourself, what are you seeking when you pray? Is it faith, protection, or simply the feeling of being connected to something greater than yourself? Know that all of that has never existed outside of you. They are extensions of who you truly are. When you give thanks instead of pleading, you have entered the frequency of miracles. When you thank God for what you have not yet seen, you invite it into form. For the subconscious does not understand time, it understands emotion. And the emotion of gratitude is the key that unlocks every blessing. Prayer is not waiting for an answer, it is entering the state where the answer already exists. Each time you believe you are loved, you allow that love to express itself. Each time you believe you are healed, your body begins to respond. The divine power within you does not need to be convinced, only allowed. Remember the last time you felt truly at peace. Perhaps it was when you watched a sunset, heard the laughter of a child, or sat in silence beneath the night sky. In that moment, you were one with God without even naming him. Peace does not come from seeking. It comes from ceasing to run. Many believe they must become perfect to touch the divine. Yet it is in the act of surrender that they are already held by him. Like that young man long ago, it was only when he stopped pleading that he heard the voice of his own soul. And the miracle happened not because some power arrived from beyond, but because the life within him awakened. This is what God wants humanity to understand, that he is not confined to churches or long prayers, but lives in every heartbeat, every thought, every moment, lived in love. Perhaps now you are asking yourself, could this truly be real? Could that divine power truly live within me? Look deeply into yourself. If life is still flowing through your heart, then the answer is yes. No one can give you that power, for it is your very nature. You cannot lose what has never left you. All you need to do is remember. And when you remember, fear dissolves. You no longer plead, you give thanks. You no longer look for signs from heaven, for you realize heaven is living within you. Thank you for listening with your heart. Only an open soul can truly hear this. In this very moment, As you realize that you are not separate from God, as you feel that love moving through every breath, you have already come home. Asterisk, asterisk, the transformation of awareness and the true nature of prayer. Asterisk, asterisk. When a human being realizes that God is not outside of them, the entire way they live and pray begins to change. Prayer is no longer an act of begging for blessings, but a moment of merging with the sacred energy that already exists within. When that young man rose from the ground where he once knelt in despair, he no longer prayed for a miracle for his mother. He looked at her still body with new eyes. Instead of seeing weakness, he saw life quietly moving. Instead of seeing death approaching, he saw the eternal light of life shining from within her. He spoke no request, only whispered gratitude. Gratitude for the divine vitality still at work, gratitude for the love that had never been lost, gratitude for the miracle that had always been present. In that silence, there were no tears, no fear, only pure faith in the invisible power flowing through every cell. That was the moment when human consciousness united with divine consciousness. What followed was no longer a miracle, but the natural unfolding of spiritual law. The next morning, when his mother opened her eyes, he was not surprised. He knew life had never left them. From that moment, he understood that God does not need persuasion. He does not demand rituals or sacrifice, only trust and recognition within one's own being. From that awareness, the definition of prayer is turned inside out. Prayer is not pleading with a distant power, but communion with the divine part within, a resonance between the individual and the creative source of life. When you pray with fear, you are planting seeds of anxiety in your subconscious. But when you pray in gratitude, knowing that what you desire already exists, you open the door for creative energy to move. The subconscious does not understand words, it understands emotion. If you say, "I am strong," while your heart still trembles, the subconscious continues to reflect fear. But if you truly feel strength, even without proof, it will begin to draw to you the conditions that express that strength. True prayer is the affirmation of spiritual truth, not of lack. When you say, "I ask for health," you affirm that you are sick. But when you say, "I give thanks for perfect health flowing through me," you declare a truth, and the subconscious will make it so. Humanity often prays as beggars, but God is not a king who grants favors, and you are not a beggar. You are the heir of the universe, the embodiment of creative intelligence itself. All limitation is illusion, born of the mind. When one understands this, they stop asking and begin co-creating with God. Then prayer is no longer words, but a state of being. A peaceful soul, filled with gratitude, free from fear, is the purest prayer of all. Those who grasp this secret feel deep serenity, for they know that what they seek has always been within them. A sick person is not healed by begging, but by believing that health already exists in them. A poor person does not become rich by pleading, but by recognizing that abundance is the natural power of the soul. When you acknowledge something as true in your consciousness, the subconscious begins to bring it into form. That is not a miracle, it is law. Many fail to see results because they pray with a mind full of doubt. They say, "I believe," but fear still rules, and the subconscious accepts only emotion, not words. The difference between an effective prayer and an empty one lies in the level of awareness. A person who simply affirms, "I and God are one," with complete conviction, speaks with more power than 1,000 desperate pleas. In that instant, they awaken their own creative energy. All great religions and teachings point to the same truth, though in different words. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." The Buddha said, "You are the Buddha to be." The sages of the East called it the Tao. All point toward one truth, the unity between the human and the infinite light. When one lives in this awareness, every event and circumstance becomes an expression of grace. Prayer then is no longer a separate act, but a way of living. Each breath is gratitude. Each kind thought is a blessing. Each loving act is devotion. When you understand this, you will never again feel abandoned, for you will know that God is not watching from above, but seeing through your eyes, breathing in your chest, and living through every act of love you give. The young man from that night of prayer never spoke of God as a concept again, but as a living experience. He no longer described the divine through theories, but through a silence filled with knowing. For once you have touched a source of light within yourself, there is nothing left to prove. You simply live, and that life itself becomes the most powerful sermon. The power of God does not need to be summoned, it only needs to be recognized. And when you truly recognize it, you no longer pray with your lips, you pray with your presence. Asterisk, asterisk, the journey of change and the power of a new belief. Asterisk, asterisk. A person's life begins to change the very moment they dare to look within and ask, do I truly understand the meaning of faith? Faith is not a memorized phrase, not a ritual, nor the mechanical repetition of lifeless affirmations. Faith is a living emotion engraved deep within the subconscious, the vibration that rises in you when you know that what you seek already exists. A woman named Margaret once came for help in a state of despair. She had lost her job, her savings were gone, and her future looked like a dark corridor with no exit. She prayed every night, recited every sacred verse she could find, yet her fear only grew stronger. For what she sent into the universe was not faith, but anxiety. She prayed with the heart of a fearful soul, and that fear became the seed her subconscious watered daily. She said she believed in God, yet deep within she trembled. Then she was taught that true prayer is not asking, but giving thanks as if the wish has already come true. She began each morning with simple words. Thank you for the changes happening in my life. Thank you for the wonderful work that is on its way. Thank you for always guiding me in the right direction. At first it felt meaningless, but she kept going. Gradually the emotion within those words grew real. She stopped seeing the world through lack and began to see it through the faith that the universe is always abundant. One morning an old friend called to offer her a job she had once dreamed of. It was not a miracle, but the natural outcome of a new frequency she had chosen to live in. When your emotions change, the energy around you changes. God does not respond to your words, He responds to the energy you emit. If you speak of faith while your heart is full of doubt, the universe hears only the doubt. But when you feel gratitude, that emotion opens the door through which all good things can enter. Prayer is not a ritual. It is the act of realigning belief. Each time you say thank you affirm that what you desire is already real. The subconscious does not understand time, it understands the emotion of the present. And gratitude is the evidence it needs to make that reality unfold. Ask yourself, what are you sending to the universe each day, fear or trust, doubt or gratitude? Every thought is a prayer, whether you name it or not. If within you there are still limits, beliefs that keep you small, then this is the moment to change them. Tell yourself, I am ready to see life from a higher level of awareness. I am ready to allow good things to come. I am ready to step out of lack and into abundance. And if you truly feel this right now, leave in your heart or even in a comment the words I am ready to change, or simply the number 1 to affirm your presence in this story and your openness to a new path. Because change does not come from outside. It begins the moment you choose to believe differently. Will you dare to believe that life can shift from a single thought? Will you dare to believe that a new belief can heal what years could not? When you change the way you think, you change the field of energy surrounding you, and when energy changes, reality must follow. No one stands outside this law. Everything you have ever called a miracle is simply the result of inner transformation. That woman was not rescued by the universe's pity, but by the faith she recreated within her own mind. She ceased to be a beggar and became a co-creator, and that is the true nature of us all. God did not create weak beings. He created those who carry the spark of creation itself. When you realize this, you begin to live as His companion, no longer begging, but giving thanks, no longer fearing, but creating. You may be in a difficult phase where everything seems to challenge you, but remember, challenges do not come to break you. They come to awaken you. Only when darkness grows dense does light become visible. There is always a light within you that has never gone out. It only needs one belief to rekindle it. You do not need to change the world. You only need to change what you believe about yourself, and the world will adjust to that new frequency. God is not silent. He is simply waiting for you to speak the right words, believe the right thoughts, and feel the right emotions. Then every door will open. Thank you for listening and being present on this journey. Perhaps today you leave only a single number, yet even one small number can mark the beginning of a great transformation. And when you are truly ready, life will no longer be something you beg for, but something you co-create. Asterisk, asterisk, the mirror of the mind and the reflection of belief. Asterisk, asterisk. There is an old story told in ancient Persia about a merchant who was once wealthy, but within a few years lost everything. His fortune vanished, his family fell apart, and his name faded into dust. Every day he stood before his mirror, staring at his tired face, saying to himself that he was a failure, that life had turned its back on him. Those words repeated day after day, like a dark prayer engraved into his subconscious, feeding despair. One day, a wise man passing through the village heard of him and decided to visit. After listening to the merchant's tale of loss, the sage simply smiled and said, "Tomorrow at dawn, stand before your mirror and say aloud, 'I am the luckiest man God ever created.'" The merchant laughed, thinking it was mockery, but the sage replied, "If you want to change your destiny, change the image you hold in your mind." That night the merchant could not sleep. Out of curiosity, he finally did, as instructed. He stood before the mirror, looked at his weary face, and forced out words he did not believe. Each phrase felt like a struggle between reason and faith. Yet day after day, those new affirmations began to replace his old complaints. He started to feel lighter, to see the world differently. One morning, as sunlight poured into the mirror, he noticed that his reflection had changed. Not because time had erased his pain, but because the light within him had shifted. He stood taller, his eyes clearer, his voice alive again. From then on, new work appeared, unexpected opportunities arrived, and his life slowly revived. He could not explain how the miracle happened, but the sage told him, "The mirror never lies. It only reflects the image you believe to be true." The human mind is exactly that mirror. It does not create, it reflects. What you see in your life is the reflection of what you believe in your mind. If you believe the world is harsh, you will encounter proof to sustain that belief. If you believe life is filled with opportunity and love, you will see doors opening everywhere. The subconscious is the most honest mirror of the soul. It does not judge or choose. It simply reflects the images you imprint upon it. Each thought, each emotion is an image carved into that mirror. If you see darkness, do not blame the mirror. Change the light. If you see lack, do not curse the world. Change the belief you nurture within. When you understand this principle, you realize that nothing happening to you is punishment or fate, but feedback from the universe in response to your mind. If you think you are small, the universe will treat you as small. If you believe you are strong, life will send you challenges worthy of your strength. God does not punish or favor anyone. He operates through the law of reflection. When you change within, the world outside must change. This is the absolute law of life. The merchant did not know he had practiced one of the highest spiritual truths, the unity between thought and manifestation. He did not ask for wealth. He changed the image of himself in his mind, and life rearranged itself to match that image. Like an actor who fully becomes his role, he lived as the lucky man until it became true. This is the power of belief fused with emotion. It is not empty words that bring transformation, but the feeling behind them. If you say, "I am at peace," while turmoil fills your heart, the subconscious hears only turmoil. But if you truly feel peace, even before circumstances change, you send a powerful vibration, and the universe begins to align with it. Prayer and affirmation have no power without true emotion. When the mind and the heart unite, creation begins. That is why those with absolute faith witness miracles, while those in doubt do not. Faith requires no logic. It is knowing without proof. When you know in this way, you transcend the limits of man and touch the divine power within. Every miracle is simply the natural reaction of the universe to unwavering belief. The merchant in that story did not change his life through luck, but through rebirth in consciousness. He did not chase wealth outside himself. He awakened the feeling of abundance within, and the universe merely reflected it back. Just as the water cannot reflect the sky when it is disturbed, the mind cannot manifest clarity when it is restless. Inner stillness is the first condition for miracles to unfold. When you stop and observe the beliefs operating within you, you begin to understand why life unfolds as it does. Each experience is a mirror, showing what you are thinking, feeling, and believing. And if you do not like what you see, change what you believe. Do not ask how the world should change. Ask what you are reflecting. That is the shortest path from suffering to light. God does not hide. He reflects through you. When you look into the mirror and see light, it is Him smiling back. When you see darkness, He is waiting for you to remember the light within. And in that moment of realization, you stop asking life to be better, because you finally understand that life is only reflecting the beauty you are willing to see. Asterisk, asterisk. The power of awareness and the art of tuning the inner frequency. Asterisk, asterisk. In the deepest layers of the human mind, there exists an invisible doorway where the seen and unseen worlds meet each moment. This door does not open through effort or prayer, but through awareness. When you begin to realize that every thought, emotion, and belief you hold is shaping the landscape of your life, you step into the highest creative power. It is the moment you stop being the one affected by circumstances and become the one who shapes them. God does not intervene in every detail of your life. He has given you the gift of freedom, and awareness is the key to using that gift. A man named Robert once believed he was born incomplete. He lived with the shame of partial deafness. And throughout his childhood and youth, he prayed endlessly for a miracle he never truly believed he deserved. He once said, "I have prayed for healing 1,000 times, but nothing happened." Then he was guided to a new truth. God does not need to be persuaded. He only needs to be acknowledged. When you give thanks as if what you desire already exists, you activate the corresponding energy within your subconscious, and from there, the invisible begins to take form. Robert changed the way he prayed. He no longer said, "God, please heal me," but "Thank you for the perfection within me that is now revealing itself." He closed his eyes, imagined the sounds of the world, the wind, the voices of loved ones, and felt as though he could already hear them fully. At first his mind resisted, but he persisted, continuing to feel, continuing to believe. Each day he spent time living in that image, not as a dream, but as a present reality. And little by little, the miraculous began to unfold. Sounds became clearer, and eventually he realized he no longer needed his hearing device. It was not a miracle that violated nature, but the perfect operation of spiritual law. When you align yourself with a higher truth, your body, your circumstances, and even the physical world must adjust to reflect it. You do not heal through willpower. You heal through awareness. Everything in the universe is vibration, and you are a living transmitter. When you tune your emotions, you change the frequency you broadcast. If you are transmitting fear, you will only hear echoes of worry. If you shift to gratitude and trust, the world responds with peace and opportunity. This is not theory, it is law. The subconscious cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is deeply felt to be real. When you imagine with complete emotion, it records that as truth, and the entire universe begins to resonate to make it visible. That is why your current situation matters less than the inner frequency you live in. Every miracle is born from a shift in frequency. If you are in pain, do not try to escape it. Change the way you see it. Pain is only a signal that you are out of alignment with the natural flow of energy. When you stop resisting, when you allow love to flow through you, everything returns to balance. God does not heal you. He is the healing operating through you. You are not the one asking for light. You are the place through which light shines. Pause for a moment and feel this. Deep within your breath, life is moving. No one but you is setting the rhythm of that life. Each breath is proof of the divine power flowing through you. When you truly understand this, you no longer seek power elsewhere. You simply return inward. For everything you need has been there all along. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. A space where the sound of God does not echo outward, but rises from within. When you listen to that voice, You no longer see yourself as small. You realize that all fear, limitation, and despair are only passing clouds, veiling your divine essence. The sun never disappears. It is only hidden for a while. When the clouds dissolve, the light is still there, radiant, unmoving, eternal. Your life is the same. The light has never gone out. You need only to turn inward and see that it never left. When you live in this awareness, you understand that true prayer is a state, not an action. It is the harmony between human and divine, where you no longer ask, you only give thanks. In that state, you no longer feel lack, for you have touched the infinite abundance of the soul. When you are aware, you begin to create. When you are grateful, you begin to attract. When you love, you open the flow of miracles. Life does not need to change from the outside. It changes from within, and everything else reflects it naturally. Awareness is the most silent prayer and the most powerful voice, for God does not listen to words, he listens to the frequency of the heart, and a grateful heart is where he is always present. Asterisk, asterisk, the awakening of the soul and the journey back to the true self. Asterisk, asterisk, when a human being understands that God is not above, but within every breath, every concept of prayer, miracle, and salvation is redefined. Man is no longer a weak being waiting for mercy, but a child of the source, carrying within the infinite energy of creation. All pain, loss, and limitation are not punishments, but lessons for the soul to remember who it truly is. A woman named Sarah lived many years in the shadows of depression. She believed her life was a mistake, that happiness was meant for others. She had prayed thousands of times, read scriptures, visited doctors, and clung to anything that might help her escape the darkness. Yet the more she prayed, the more abandoned she felt, until one day, someone asked her a question that silenced everything inside her. If God truly lives within you, who are you waiting for to save you? That question struck like thunder, awakening the soul that had long been asleep. She realized that for years she had been pleading with a distant God, while the very power she sought was resting in her own heart. From that day, she stopped asking and began listening. Each morning upon waking, she placed her hand on her heart and said, I am a child of light. I am not broken. I am a soul learning to remember its wholeness. I am not depressed. I am awakening from a long dream. Every time she spoke these words, she did not try to convince herself. She felt them as a current of energy flowing through her. Her affirmations were no longer sentences, but the breath of her soul. She began replacing every negative thought with a higher truth. When the mind said, I am useless, she answered, I am the expression of God. When sadness said, I am alone, she whispered, I am surrounded by divine love. When darkness murmured, I will never change, she replied, the light has never been lost. I only need to remember it. Day by day, the clouds in her mind began to dissolve. She started to feel joy in small things, the light of dawn, the song of birds, the smile of a stranger. The joy did not come from outside, but from within, from the place where she had found herself again. One morning, while meditating in her garden, she felt a presence of light surrounding her, not the light of the sun, but the sensation of being embraced by unconditional love. In that moment, she knew she had never been abandoned. All her years of suffering were not punishment, but a journey through forgetfulness to recover the memory of her soul. That is what awakening truly is, not an addition, but a release. When you stop identifying with pain, when you cease believing you are separate from the source, you naturally return to your original essence. Everything you search for outside is only a reflection of what you already hold within. You do not need to become better, you only need to become truer. Truth never needs to be created. It only needs to be remembered. Like water returning to stillness, when the ripples of fear and doubt settle, the surface reflects the perfect sky that was always there. Sarah understood that she did not need to fight sadness. She only needed to stop feeding it. When fear returned, she smiled and said, I know you are only the shadow of a light I have forgotten. And in that awareness, the darkness faded. She did not heal depression. She simply stopped identifying with it. That is the essence of transformation. When you stop resisting, when you stop defining yourself through limitation, The energy of life begins to flow again. God has never left you. He is simply waiting for you to step out of the old role and return to your true one. Life does not ask you to be perfect. It only asks you to be present with all the light that lives within. In that presence, every wound dissolves, every lack is filled, and every boundary becomes illusion. When Sarah shared her story, she said that depression was the greatest gift life had given her, for without it she would never have gone deep enough to find her soul. Just as a seed must break apart in the darkness before it sprouts, human beings must pass through shadow to rediscover the light. Every soul experiences such a moment when the outer world collapses only to reveal the inner one. That is when you understand that you never needed to seek God, for He never left. You never needed to search for peace, for it was never lost. You only need to stop, breathe, and remember. Remember that you are light in human form, a soul carrying a temporary experience to rediscover eternity. When you remember this, pain no longer frightens you, loss no longer feels final, and life becomes so sacred that every breath becomes a prayer. Awakening is not a destination, but a way of living. It does not pull you away from life. It teaches you how to live it truly. When you look at the world through the light of your soul, you see God in every face, in every breeze, in every drop of water, and in your own reflection. Asterisk, asterisk, the power of words and the inner image. Asterisk, asterisk. Deep within every human being exists an invisible flame that never goes out, only dims when we stare outward for too long. That flame is the creative consciousness, the place where God placed within man the power to shape reality. This power does not lie in physical strength, but in the words we speak and the images we nurture each day. The mind is not an empty space. It is a sacred garden where every seed of belief grows into experience. In ancient Persia, there once lived a man who lost all his wealth in a fire. In despair, he sought the guidance of a renowned sage and begged to be shown how to rebuild his life. The sage listened quietly, then told him to find a large mirror and place it in the most silent room of his home. Each morning and each night, the sage said, "Stand before that mirror and declare, 'I am a wretched man. My life is over. There is no hope left for me.'" The man was astonished, but out of respect he obeyed. After a few days, the pain in those words became unbearable. Every time he looked into the mirror and spoke them, it felt like he was driving the blade deeper into his own wound. He returned and said, "Master, these words bring me more pain than I can bear. Please tell me why." The sage smiled and said, "Now you have understood the power of words. If words of despair can wound you so deeply, imagine what would happen if you used them to speak of light instead of darkness. From this day on, look into the mirror and say, 'I am blessed, I am prosperous, I am surrounded by the grace of God.'" The man followed the instruction, though every word at first felt false. His reality showed no sign of the prosperity he spoke of. Yet he persisted. Each day he repeated the affirmations with unwavering determination and as much sincerity as he could summon. Then, without knowing when, something began to shift. His eyes grew brighter. His posture straightened. His voice carried conviction. A quiet transformation was taking root within him. Opportunities began to appear. New people entered his life. He was no longer the man who had lost everything, but one who was rediscovering how to create from within. That story teaches a truth both simple and profound. Words are commands to the subconscious, and emotion is the energy that brings those commands to life. When you speak with faith, the universe rearranges itself to reflect it. Every image you hold in your mind is a seed dropped into the soil of the subconscious. If you plant seeds of fear, you will harvest circumstances that reinforce fear. But if you plant seeds of love, health, and abundance, then no matter how things appear now, one day reality will bloom in harmony with those images. The subconscious cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It accepts as truth whatever you repeat with strong emotion. That is why imagination is the sacred tool of creation that humanity rarely uses wisely. People often use imagination to paint fear, loss, or failure, and then wonder why such things come true. They do not realize that by doing so, they have made their fears real. Look closely at your life. Everything you are living today was once an image in your mind yesterday. If you want the future to change, do not beg for it. Begin to see it differently. When you imagine with love and gratitude, you are lighting the lamp of your soul. That light shines outward and reshapes the world to mirror the vision you hold within. There is no such thing as coincidence, only the echo of consciousness. When you understand this law, you will stop speaking thoughtlessly. Every word you utter is a seed you send into the universe. One who says, "I cannot," has already closed the door. One who says, "I can," has opened the gates of possibility. God does not choose whom to bless. He responds through the energy you project. When your words, emotions, and beliefs align as one, creative power is released. There is no need to strive or force. It is the natural law of spirit. Just as a seed sprouts when it receives enough light and water, every noble idea within you will come alive when nourished by positive emotion and unwavering faith. Be mindful then of the words you speak each day, for they are not just sounds, they are the energies that shape your world. Observe yourself. How often do you say words of limitation without noticing? I am tired. I am not good enough. I will never make it. I have no luck. Each time you say such things, you are giving a command to your subconscious, and it obeys faithfully. Like a gardener, you can plant flowers or weeds, but the soil never judges. It only grows what it receives. Your mind is the same. Choose to plant words of light. Say, "I am at peace. I am full of energy. I am worthy of good things. I am the expression of love." When these words are spoken with real feeling, you are not only changing your beliefs, you are changing your vibration. And when your vibration changes, life must change with it. God is not far away. He is the energy moving through every word you speak. When your words come from love, it is He speaking through you. When you fall silent and listen to the echo within, it is He answering. The conversation between you and God is not carried by human language, but by energy. So speak less, feel more. Use every word as a prayer, every thought as a seed of light. When you live this way, everything you touch becomes a miracle, not because you are trying to create them, but because you have remembered who you truly are. Humanity was not born to complain, but to create. Not to fear, but to love. Not to flee the darkness, but to illuminate it. Every word carries the power of choice, and in each breath you decide what to create. When you speak from the heart, your words become the current of God, and the world reflects back in love. Asterisk, asterisk, the memory of the soul and the journey back to the throne of being. Asterisk, asterisk. From the moment of birth, every human carries within an immeasurable treasure, yet most forget where it is hidden. It is like the ancient story of a prince who lost his memory. As a child, he was separated from the royal palace during a war. He grew up among the poor, living a life of hardship, begging for compassion from those no greater than himself. At times, in the quiet of night, he felt a strange longing, as if his soul were calling him home, but his mind dismissed it as fantasy. Years passed, and the prince continued living as a beggar, until one day an old messenger arrived in the village with a letter from the king. The letter carried no blame, only a single truth. You are not the wretched one you believe yourself to be. You are the heir to the kingdom of light, and your throne still awaits you. Those words shook him deeply, for somewhere within, he knew they were true. Every suffering he had endured was not fate's punishment, but the result of forgetting who he truly was. That story is the mirror of the human journey. We are not wanderers seeking God. We are princes and princesses of light who have momentarily forgotten our divine origin. When the soul enters the physical world, it wears the garments of time, space, and memory. It forgets itself so that it may learn again through experience. Forgetting is necessary, for only in the shadow of amnesia can the light regain meaning. But in time, when one has suffered enough and no longer finds fulfillment in the outer world, the inner call begins to rise. It is the voice of the soul, inviting us back to the throne of our true being. When you feel empty despite having everything, when you feel weary despite success, it is not failure, it is the sign that the deepest part of you longs to remember. You were not born to be a servant of fear, but a co-creator with God. When you forget this, you lose your power, and the world becomes a place of struggle. But when you remember, everything begins to change. The outer world merely reflects the state of your inner awareness. When you look through the eyes of the soul, all limits dissolve. You realize that no one can truly hurt you, for your essence has never been wounded. Every scar belongs to the surface of the mind. The soul beneath remains untouched, as pure as the original light. Everything you have ever feared is only an illusion born of mistaken belief. The awakening begins when you dare to ask, am I really as small as I've been taught to think? A drop of water that falls into the ocean ceases to be a drop. It becomes the ocean itself. So too, when you merge with the consciousness of the universe, you are no longer a separate being, but an extension of the whole. God is not far away. He is the ocean, and you are the wave upon it. The illusion of separation is the root of all suffering. When you believe you are apart from the source, fear arises, for you feel alone against the world. But when you remember that you are part of the whole, fear disappears, because you know that the power of the entire universe moves with you. This is the turning point of every spiritual path. The moment a human being realizes they need not seek God, only shed the layers that made them forget He was always here. Every sorrow you've endured was not meant to weaken you, but to make you remember your strength. When something is taken away, it is only an old shell being removed to reveal the light beneath. Like the prince shedding his tattered clothes, you do not become someone new. You simply return to who you have always been. Awakening adds nothing. It only removes illusion. And when illusion dissolves, truth stands unveiled. There is no path that leads to God, for you already stand within Him. There is no miracle to find, for you are the miracle itself. Once you understand this, life becomes a journey of awareness, no longer a struggle between fear and hope, but a dance between human and divine within each breath. Every time you love, He loves through you. Every time you forgive, He heals through you. Every time you give thanks, He smiles within you. There is no longer any boundary between you and the source. Prayer becomes breath, peace becomes your natural state, and goodness flows not from effort, but from alignment with your essence. Humans suffer not from lack, but from forgetfulness. They seek love while they are love itself. They beg for light while they are already shining. They ask for healing while the power to heal moves in every cell. When you see this truth, you no longer fight life. You live as one who remembers. And when you live that way, all that you once prayed for finds its way to you, because your energy has become one with it. The throne of your being was never lost. You simply forgot the way back. Sit still. Be silent. Listen. Deep within your soul, a gentle voice still calls, whispering, remember, you are light. You are love. You are eternal life. When you hear that voice, fear disappears, for nothing can take from you what you truly are. Everything in this world is temporary, but your essence is eternal. And when you live from that knowing, you not only return to yourself, you bring that light back into the world. Asterisk, asterisk, the healing of the soul and the call of the inner light. Asterisk, asterisk. There are moments in life when one must walk through darkness to understand the value of light. No one can truly know peace until they have been lost in the storms of their own mind. A young woman named Elena lived for many years in fear and anxiety. She could not understand why, despite having everything, her heart still felt empty. She sought healing through religion, through methods, through prayers, but the harder she tried, the heavier her unease became. One day, in a moment of exhaustion, she sat in silence and whispered, if God is within me, then why do I feel so alone? And in that instant, something shifted. It was not an answer that came, but silence, an immense, living stillness, not cold or hollow, but warm like an embrace. She felt another kind of life breathing within her, gentle, forgiving, alive. She understood then that God had never left. She had simply been too busy with the noise of her mind to hear His voice. Healing does not come from searching, but from allowing. When the mind softens, the current of life begins to flow again. Humans were not created to strive for perfection, but to allow the perfection already within to reveal itself. In every breath, God sends the vibration of love, but only in stillness can we hear it. Elena began practicing silence daily. She did not pray, imagine, or try to control. She simply listened. And in those moments, she felt every cell of her body wrapped in light. Old memories began to soften. Fears melted like morning mist. She realized that true healing is not about changing anything, but remembering that the soul has never been broken. The soul is eternal, unshakable, unbreakable, deathless. It is only the mind, tangled in false beliefs, that makes us think we are damaged. When the mind is illuminated by awareness, darkness dissolves on its own. God does not need to act because he never left. Just as the sun never fights the night, it simply rises and the darkness disappears. In this realization, Helena found what she had been seeking all along, a feeling of return, not a return to a place, but to herself, to the peace that had always been there. She said it was not a grand moment, but a quiet transformation, like a soft breeze moving through her soul. From that day forward, she lived differently, more gently, more deeply, more lovingly. She understood that whenever her heart closed, all she needed to do was listen to the voice within. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to, a space where the soul meets itself again, where every prayer dissolves into silence, leaving only the pure presence of love. It is a space beyond asking and giving, beyond right and wrong, where the human and the divine exist in perfect harmony. When you reach this space, you no longer need anyone to heal you, because you realize you are the healer. You no longer fear the dark, for you know that the love within you is stronger than any shadow. Whenever you feel lost, stop, take a deep breath, and remember that life is still flowing through you. Even in the storm, God is there in every breath you take. Life does not demand that you always be strong. It only asks that you be honest. Honest with your feelings, with your fears, with the deepest parts of yourself. For only when you look directly at the darkness can the light enter. True healing does not happen when you reject your pain, but when you embrace it with compassion. Every tear that falls is not a failure, but the melting of old energy being released. When you stop resisting, when you let go of control, new energy flows in, and that is when the miracle happens quietly, gently, yet profoundly. It does not turn you into someone else. It reminds you that you have always been enough. When you live from the fullness of the soul, the outer world begins to mirror that fullness. Relationships soften, work becomes harmonious, the body regains strength. But above all, you feel free, free from limiting beliefs, from the fear of being hurt, from the need to prove your worth. You do not need to prove you are deserving, because your very existence is proof. God does not love you because you are perfect. He loves you because you are part of him. And when you truly understand that, you begin to see the world through the eyes of gratitude. Grateful for those who once hurt you, for they helped you see yourself. Grateful for hardships, for they taught you to grow. Grateful for life itself, for it is the stage upon which the soul unfolds. Healing is the journey back to love, not love from outside, but the love you discover when you sit in the middle of the storm and still hear the whisper of God within your heart. When you learn to listen, you no longer need to search, for every answer has been within you all along. Life is not a race towards some distant destination. It is a homecoming, where every step, every breath, is a gentle reminder that you were never lost. Asterisk, asterisk, prayer for others and the art of seeing wholeness. Asterisk, asterisk. There are moments in life when we stand before another's suffering and feel utterly powerless. We want to help, to comfort, to do something, but words fall short. When someone we love is in pain, our hearts tighten, and from that ache we pray, asking God to heal them, to change what is, to bring a miracle. Yet few realize that to pray for another is not an act of interference, but an act of union in awareness. When you see someone through the eyes of love, you are sending them the most powerful energy in the universe. A man named David once had a wife, Maria, who had been ill for many years. He prayed constantly, begging God to heal her, but her health continued to decline. One night, in despair, he whispered into the stillness, "Why do you not hear me?" And in that silence came a thought, soft but clear. I have never not heard you. It is you who keep seeing the illness instead of seeing the life. Those words struck him deeply. He realized that though his prayers were filled with love, his attention had always been on the sickness. He saw Maria as fragile, as one who needed saving, instead of as a perfect soul temporarily walking through a lesson. From that day forward, he changed the way he prayed. He no longer asked God to heal his wife. He thanked him for the divine life still flowing through her. Each morning he sat beside her, held her hand, closed his eyes, and pictured her radiant with vitality. He did not focus on the illness. He focused on the light of wholeness surrounding her. In that gaze there was no pity, no fear, only love, and an unshakable knowing that her soul could never be harmed. Gradually, something beautiful happened. Maria began to sleep peacefully, her spirit grew calmer, and even her body started responding to that energy. David understood then that to pray for another is not to change them, but to hold within your awareness the highest vision of who they truly are, even when they cannot see it themselves. When you see the light in someone, you remind their soul of its own perfection. That is the greatest gift you can offer. God does not divide one soul from another, for all were born from the same source of light. When you send love to another, you send it to yourself. When you heal someone in consciousness, you heal the reflection within your own being. Every relationship is a mirror of your awareness. If you see someone through judgment, you create distance. If you see them with compassion, you restore unity. This is why the purest prayers do not come from fear, but from love. When you pray with gratitude, you are not asking for something to happen. You are affirming that the good already exists. And the subconscious of the one you pray for will respond to that vibration, for their soul already knows the truth. A spiritual physician once said that when he prayed for patients, he never saw disease. He saw God living within them. For to see sickness is to reinforce it, but to see light is to release it. When you pray for another, imagine them shining with divine energy. Send them the certainty that they are whole, loved, and strong. No words are needed, only pure energy, and the universe will handle the rest. A mother prays for her child not with fear, but with the faith that the child is always guided. A friend prays not with worry, but with the calm knowing that God is present in every circumstance. The power of prayer lies not in the language, but in the state of the heart. When you truly believe in the wholeness of another soul, you become a channel through which God expresses himself. Such prayer transforms not only the one being prayed for, but also the one who prays. You begin to feel lighter, more compassionate, more alive. For when you view the world through the lens of light, darkness has nowhere left to exist. Every loving act, every blessing, every kind gaze is a prayer being offered, and within each one, God is at work through you. People often think prayer is a religious practice, but it is in truth the natural language of the soul. Every time you think of someone with love, you are praying. Every time you forgive, you release old energy. Every time you silently hold a vision of goodness for another, you create a miracle. That is how God heals the world, not through thunder and lightning, but through hearts that remember how to love. When David looked at Maria through the purity of divine love, he not only helped her recover, he awakened himself. He discovered that prayer is not asking God to act, but allowing God to act through us. When we see the best in another, we are seeing with his eyes. And in that vision, all boundaries dissolve. Love knows no distance, no time. It travels invisibly, touching the deepest layers of the soul, and there everything is healed. Asterisk, asterisk, the radiance of light and the art of seeing the divine in everyone. Asterisk, asterisk. A teacher named Anna once worked in an inner city school where the students came to class with weary eyes and closed hearts. Violence, fear, and hopelessness filled the air each day. At first, Anna tried to maintain order through rules and discipline, through lectures and warnings, but the harder she tried, the more chaotic things became. One afternoon, after witnessing a fight between two students, she sat alone in the empty classroom and cried out of exhaustion. In the silence, she whispered, "How can I bring light into hearts that have grown numb?" Then a gentle thought rose within her. No one can receive what has never been seen in them. If she wanted the students to change, she had to be the first to see their light. From that day, Anna decided she would no longer see her students as rebellious children, but as souls who had forgotten their worth. She began each morning with a few minutes of stillness, inviting everyone to close their eyes and breathe. She told them that no matter what their circumstances were, there was a light within that no one could take away. At first they laughed, some mocked her, others rolled their eyes. But she continued, patient and steady, looking at each one with eyes full of love instead of judgment. Gradually, something miraculous began to unfold. A boy once known as the most disruptive student started helping others. A girl who never smiled began to laugh again. The classroom grew quieter, calmer, almost sacred. No one could explain exactly what had changed, but Anna knew the energy of love had begun to move through that space. She no longer taught as before. She wasn't teaching information, she was awakening souls. For when someone is seen through the eyes of light, they naturally begin to rise toward their own goodness. Like a seed touched by sunlight, it does not need to be forced, it simply grows. The true power lies not in words, but in the vibration of the heart that speaks them. When you see another with love, you are sending a prayer stronger than any spoken chant. Anna said that after only a few months, her classroom had become a sanctuary. Other teachers asked her what her secret was, and she smiled gently and replied, I simply choose to see the best in every person until they can see it in themselves. That is the miracle of perception. When you change the way you see, the world around you changes with it. When you stop judging and begin understanding, the energy of your environment transforms. Those near you can feel it, even when you say nothing. For souls do not communicate through words, they communicate through frequency. The frequency of love is always higher than fear, and where love exists, darkness cannot remain. Think about the people you encounter every day, your family, your friends, your co-workers. Have you truly looked at them through the eyes of light? Or have you only seen the outer layers, the masks built from pain and defense? Behind anger, there is often fear. Behind coldness, a heart longing to be understood. If today you choose to see them as Anna saw her students, you will witness a transformation. The miracle is not in what you say, but in the energy you bring. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly looked at someone with love? When was the last time you remembered that you can shift an entire space simply by being fully present? You may not be teaching in a classroom, but you are always teaching life through how you live, love, and forgive. Every time you choose kindness over judgment, you become a vessel for God's energy. This is the secret of radiance. It needs no sermons, only presence. When you live this way, you do not just transform others, you heal yourself. For love given never leaves the giver. It circles back, fuller and purer. Every soul longs to be seen in light, and you have the power to offer that to a friend, a stranger, or even yourself. A glance, a smile, a gentle touch. These are God's ways of working through you. He does not move with thunder or spectacle, but with quiet persistence. You do not need to do great things to change the world. You only need to see the divine in another. When you do, you raise the vibration of humanity itself. And if you are hearing these words right now, I want to ask you one thing. Today, can you look at someone through the eyes of light? Just one person with your whole heart, without judgment, without fear, seeing them simply as a soul learning to love. If you can do that, you have already added your light to the world. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being willing to become the place through which God's love continues to flow. Asterisk, asterisk. 5 foundational practices and the art of living in oneness, asterisk, asterisk. When a person realizes that God is not outside but alive in every breath, they begin to understand that every prayer, every affirmation, every action is but a different expression of the same divine current. Yet recognition alone is not enough. What sustains awakening is steady practice. Enlightenment is rarely a single grand moment. It is the quiet repetition of awareness day after day. Like a river that never rushes yet never stops until it merges with the sea, the awakened life is a gentle flow of presence returning to its source through every breath, every act, every moment of consciousness. There are 5 foundational practices, 5 rhythms of the soul, each one a doorway back to the center of peace. Asterisk, asterisk. The first practice is sacred awareness at dawn. The moment you awaken, before the mind rushes into its worries and plans, take a few minutes to recognize that you are alive, not merely breathing, but aware that a divine force is breathing through you. Whisper inwardly, God is living through me today. Thank you for allowing me to be a channel of love, peace, and wisdom. When you begin the day with this awareness, you enter the world not by effort but by allowing. You no longer struggle to control life, for you trust that the current already knows where to go. Asterisk, asterisk. The second practice is gratitude before manifestation. Asterisk, asterisk. Gratitude is not an outcome, it is the cause. When you give thanks, you send a signal of abundance to creation. The subconscious does not understand time, it responds only to emotion. If you feel gratitude as though the blessing were already here, life begins to organize itself to match that frequency. This is the secret of all miracles. Those who understand this law do not beg, they give thanks. They do not wait for happiness, they are happy first, and life rises to meet their vibration. Gratitude is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between spirit and matter. Asterisk, asterisk. The third practice is returning to the inner sanctuary. Asterisk, asterisk. Each day, spend time in silence, even for a few minutes. Step into that still space where the soul speaks in whispers. No rituals, no words, just presence. In stillness, you reconnect with the infinite source. You may call it meditation, prayer, or simply coming home. In this space, you do not solve problems, for every answer arises naturally once the mind becomes still. God does not speak in words. He speaks in the deep quiet within you. And when you learn to listen, everything becomes clear without effort. Asterisk, asterisk. The fourth practice is responding with awareness instead of reaction. Life will continue to test you with unexpected challenges, but you can always choose your response. When someone hurts you, or when things go wrong, pause before reacting. Take a slow, deep breath, and remember you are not the mind. You are the one observing it. In that remembrance, power returns. You are no longer pulled by anger or fear. You respond with peace and wisdom. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen your connection with the soul. That is how you walk with God amid the noise of life. Asterisk, asterisk. The fifth practice is evening reflection. Asterisk, asterisk. As the day closes, look back not to judge but to understand. Ask yourself, how much of today did I live in presence? Did I act from love or from fear? If you erred, forgive yourself and give thanks for the lesson. If you felt joy, give thanks for the experience. Each night is a return, a completion of a circle of awareness. When you fall asleep in gratitude, your subconscious tends the garden of your day, nurturing the seeds of growth into blessings for tomorrow. These 5 practices are not duties, they are the natural rhythm of the awakened soul. When cultivated, they dissolve the illusion of separation between the sacred and the ordinary, between prayer and action, between humanity and divinity. Living this way, you become a bridge between heaven and earth, between the invisible and the visible. Every gesture, no matter how small, becomes a living prayer. You no longer need to search for God in temples, for He is revealed in the way you smile, the way you listen, the way you do all things with love. Life is not a series of days to reach something, but a succession of moments to remember who you are. Through these practices, you are not trying to become better, you are simply removing what you are not. And in that simplicity, miracles unfold. Everything you once prayed for in the future begins to bloom in the present, for you are now vibrating at its frequency. This is the art of living in oneness, where you are no longer separate from God, but creating with Him each moment of existence. When you understand this, you realize there is nothing left to achieve, because you have always been what you were seeking. Asterisk, asterisk. Awakening through trials and the power of sacred memory. Asterisk, asterisk. Human beings often believe that peace can only exist when life is free from storms. Yet true peace is not found in avoidance, but in remembering who you are while standing in the midst of chaos. Challenges do not come to destroy you, they come to awaken you. Every trial is a mirror reflecting the parts of you still clouded by fear, limitation, or the illusion of separation. When you begin to understand this, you stop asking, asterisk, why is life unfair to me? Asterisk. And instead ask, asterisk, what is this trying to teach me about myself? Asterisk. That single question opens the door to higher awareness. Every pain, every loss, every upheaval carries within it a sacred message that nothing real about you can ever be lost. The body may weaken, possessions may vanish, loved ones may part, but your essence, your soul, remains untouched. Imagine that you are an actor in a divine play, and every challenge is a scene written to help you remember your true role. When you identify with the character, you suffer. When you remember you are the one acting, you are free. Life is not a random series of luck and loss. It is a perfectly designed unfolding meant to guide you home. The awakened do not fear hardship, for they recognize that each trial is the universe inviting them to express their inner divinity. Illness does not arrive to end you, but to open faith. Loss does not appear to punish you, but to teach release. Betrayal does not come to break you, but to reveal how love can exist without condition. When you see everything as a lesson, nothing remains an enemy. The true measure of a soul's strength is not how much it achieves, but how deeply it can love when there is no reason to. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the return to trust whenever fear arises. Within every trial lies a place inside you that cannot be touched, a still center that remains whole. It is the root of all peace, the silent depth beneath the waves. When you live from that place, you no longer need to escape life. You can walk through it calmly, carrying heaven within you. The ancients called this times the memory of the soul. The asterisk Joseph Murphy described it as the awareness of our divine nature. It is an ancient remembrance that sleeps within you, waiting for a moment of silence to whisper, you have been through this before. You have been strong before. You have been light before. In that remembrance, you cease to feel small or separate from Source. You realize that God is not beyond the stars. He is breathing through you, pulsing through every heartbeat, and most profoundly living this very life as you. True awakening does not come from leaving the world behind, but from living fully in it with a clear mind and an open heart. When you understand this, you no longer ask why you must suffer. You ask, asterisk, how can I express God in this moment? Asterisk. When you are hurt, express love. When you lose, express gratitude. When you are betrayed, express forgiveness. Each act of such awareness is God moving through you, and through that you become light itself. The world does not transform when you hide from darkness, but when you bring light into it. Every encounter, every situation is an opportunity to practice unconditional love. The more you do, the more you remember who you truly are. For love is the language of the soul, and your soul has never forgotten how to speak it, even in silence. When this truth settles in your heart, a gentle peace begins to rise, not the peace of victory, but of harmony. You no longer need to prove your worth, because you know you are worth itself. You no longer need to seek peace, because peace is your nature. You no longer chase miracles, because you finally see you are the miracle. This is times the power of voice within asterisk. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. It is where all outer noise fades, so you can listen to the whisper of your soul. Every time you return to that inner space, you step out of the loop of fear and back into the essence of love. There is no shorter path, no greater method. It all begins with remembering that you have never been separate from the light. When you live in that awareness, life stops being a battle and becomes a symphony. Every hardship is a low note, every joy a high one, and you are the music being composed by God. There are no mistakes, only melodies in progress. Listen closely to the rhythm of your heart. That is the call home, to the peace that was never lost, only waiting to be remembered. Asterisk, asterisk, the journey back to the self and the art of living in grace. Asterisk, asterisk. There comes a stage on the spiritual path when one believes they have grasped truth, when understanding feels complete and inner power seems secure. Yet life, in its quiet wisdom, arranges circumstances to show that knowledge means nothing until it becomes experience. Many read countless books, attend endless teachings, practice meditation diligently, but it is only when they face real suffering that the depth of their faith is revealed. It is in the moment of being brought to the edge of one's strength that grace begins to flow. Grace does not arrive as a reward, it is a hidden spring that has always been there, waiting for the ground to crack open so that it may rise. And in that breaking, the soul is watered by a new awareness. Grace is the energy of surrender, not the surrender of weakness, but of conscious allowing. When you stop resisting what is, you step into the flow of divine intelligence. All resistance comes from the illusion of separation, from the belief that you must control life on your own. But when you realize that true strength comes not from effort but from alignment, you become part of the river instead of struggling against it. Those who live in grace do not seek to avoid adversity. They walk through it with trust. They do not pray for an easy life. They pray for a heart wide enough to embrace all that comes. When you live in grace, harmony reveals itself everywhere. The things that once caused worry now appear small, for you know they are but passing waves on the deep ocean of existence. Even pain holds a subtle beauty, for it awakens compassion and expands your understanding of what it means to be human. Each time someone hurts you, you learn that love does not depend on conditions. Each time you lose something, you rediscover the gift of impermanence. And through each lesson, the soul matures not by gaining more, but by becoming simpler, clearer, and more transparent to the divine light. The life of an awakened soul is not a parade of miracles, but a quiet peace within all circumstances. There is no need to prove anything, for one knows that everything unfolds perfectly in the divine plan. When one door closes, another opens. When something leaves, it creates space for what is to come. Nothing is truly lost. Everything transforms. Those who live in grace do not ask times why asterisk. They say times thank you asterisk. For they know that in every situation the hand of God is guiding the way. Grace does not come to those who seek it, but to those who are ready. When you let go of the small will and allow the greater will of the universe to act through you, life becomes effortless. The miracle is not in controlling outcomes, but in trusting the unfolding. A flower does not bloom by force, it opens when there is enough light and water. Your life, too, blooms naturally when you stop striving to become someone and instead allow your divine nature to express itself. Those who live in grace no longer compare or compete. They know every soul has its own rhythm, every path its own season of flowering. They do not hurry, push, or judge. They trust in the wisdom of life. They do not ask times when, times or times how asterisk, for they understand that everything happens in divine timing. A tree cannot blossom before its roots are deep enough, and a person cannot receive before they are ready. To live in grace is to live in wholeness. You no longer chase the future nor cling to the past. You live here in the sacred now, where everything is unfolding exactly as it should. When the mind stops wandering, the heart opens and begins to feel again. Every breath becomes a prayer, every step a sacred act. You no longer need to search for God, for you are walking with Him. And one day, you realize that everything you ever sought was within you all along. The strength you prayed for, the love you longed for, the peace you pursued. They were never absent. Life never takes anything from you. It simply teaches you to see what has always been yours. When this truth becomes your knowing, you begin to live in absolute trust, a trust not based on reason, but on the direct experience of your connection with the Source. There is no shorter path than the path of grace. You do not need to be perfect to be loved, strong to endure, or wise to be chosen. You need only to be present, honest, and willing to trust. Grace does the rest. When you walk with an open heart, the universe arranges every step for you. You no longer fear losing your way, for the way is within you. And in that moment of realization, you finally understand this life has never been a journey to find God, but a journey to remember that He has never left you, not for a single breath. Asterisk, asterisk, union, and the soul's final reminder, asterisk, asterisk. There comes a point when you no longer ask how to attain peace, for you finally understand that peace is not something to reach, it is what you are. When a person stops searching outward, they begin to remember what the soul has always known. There is nothing to achieve, only something to recognize. You have always been part of God, and God has always been part of you. Every fear, every doubt, every limitation is but a passing mist covering the light. When the mist dissolves, the sun does not rise, it was never gone. Awakening does not come from finding something new, but from clearly seeing what has always been there. Those who are truly awakened do not wander in knowledge, they live in awareness. They speak little of faith, for they have times become times faith itself. They do not pray with words, for their lifetimes is times of prayer. They do not seek to change the world. They live in the frequency of love, and the world reshapes itself around them. In this state of unity, every division appears as a gentle illusion of the mind. There is no longer self and other, no longer right and wrong, no longer light and shadow, only life expressing itself through infinite forms. Every soul you meet is a reflection of God, and every experience a mirror revealing another facet of the divine. When you see this, anger fades, for you know everyone is simply playing their role. Fear disappears, for you know you are exactly where your soul needs to be. The struggle ends, for you realize there is nothing to win. When the heart opens, life flows through you naturally, and that flow itself is the miracle. Miracles are not extraordinary events. They are the natural state of being when you live from your divine essence. Once you are no longer separate from Source, every word, every thought, every action becomes an expression of love. Life then ceases to be a list of tasks and becomes a symphony unfolding in every moment. Each person you meet is a note, each experience a melody, and you are the one weaving harmony through it all. There are no wrong notes, only parts of the music, not yet fully heard. Living with this awareness, you stop judging, stop rushing, stop seeking. You begin to listen to life, to feel it, to let it guide you. In every breath, you sense the presence of God not far away, but pulsing quietly within your heartbeat. When one lives in unity, the fear of loss dissolves, for nothing can truly be lost in a universe made of energy and love. Everything simply changes form, from visible to invisible, from temporary to eternal. When you understand this, pain transforms into understanding, and understanding into gratitude. You recognize that even those who have hurt you were messengers of light, teaching you how to love without conditions. Even the moments that broke you open were doorways to higher awareness. Life is no longer a series of trials, but a sacred journey of remembering. All prayers at their end return to a single point, the moment when you stop asking and begin to say times thank you, asterisk, thank you for life, for love, for being a part of the endless light. Thank you for the pain that made you grow. Thank you for each day that gives you another chance to love more deeply. When you can give thanks even for what once brought you to your knees, you have touched true freedom. Freedom does not come from escaping circumstances, but from no longer being bound by them. When nothing in this world can steal your peace, it is because you have times become times peace. And as you walk in that state, you become a light for others, not by preaching, not by teaching, but by presence alone. Light does not need to announce that it shines. It simply illuminates. Love does not need to prove itself. It simply times is. Asterisk, when you live this way, you become the hands of God in the physical world, the flow of compassion, the whisper of kindness. And in that sacred silence, the world around you begins to transform. Some will look at you and ask, asterisk, what makes you so peaceful? Asterisk, and you will smile, knowing that it is not times you, times who are peaceful, but that peace is living through you. You are no longer the seeker, but the one who has been found. You no longer question the meaning of life, because you have times become times its meaning. Every gesture, every touch, every gentle word carries the power to heal, for through each one the energy of the divine moves. The journey does not end, for life never stops expanding. It flows, circles, and returns again in a rhythm of love and awareness. And one day you will understand there is no ending, only returning. Returning to light, to peace, to your truest self. And in that moment, you will smile softly, for you will finally know you have traveled so far, only to discover that you never left home. True peace is not found by escaping life, it is revealed when you stop running from yourself. Everything you've ever searched for, love, strength, freedom, has been breathing within you all along. And one day, when you sit in silence, you'll realize this was never a journey to find God, but a journey to remember that He has never left you. Let the voice within guide you home, for that is the eternal power, the power of voice within.